Malo lover, we're coming in hot with another season of super spicy zinger burger, tingle on your tongue talanoa. If you have something to say, better say it with your chest. We talk a lot about cultural appropriation, putting 2 chopsticks in your bun and calling yourself Chun-Li. Remember when African dashikis were on trend? And how about using a black scent when you aren't black? My question for our panelists: is there a shared Pacific culture, and is it possible to appropriate other islands' cultures, even if you are Pacific yourself? Tyla, Master Tatau artist, what are your thoughts?
It's such a massive topic, not black and white, but in a nutshell, in a coconut shell, I would say no. Because if I'm taking something from another culture and giving it to someone from a whole other culture, that's cultural appropriation.
And so when you're doing tatau for cultures that are not your own, how do you go about doing that in a way that respects the mana of the culture that you are trying to uphold?
So it's really about research, making connections with masters, knowledge holders from those cultures to really understand what you're working with. It's really about intention, the intention behind the person doing the work, the acknowledgement, the person receiving the work, and that it is done out of respect.
Okay, Brianna, you know the Pacific back to front, and so in the mainstream media we tend to see, people putting on a grass skirt and thinking that they're Hawaiian. Do you think that's okay to do even if you are Pacific?
Similar to what Tyla said, I think it comes back to the understanding, right? And even like what you mentioned is that I know the Pacific back to front. I don't. Like, a lot of us don't. A lot of us say, oh, I'm Samoan, I know the Pacific, but don't know what's the capital of Guam. I know we share Pacific values, and I think that sometimes gets mixed up with Pacific culture. We are respectful to our elders, right? We never talk back. We always take off our shoes when we go into the fale. Like, we have all those things. But when it comes down to like language, to ceremony, to spirituality, it's so different and it's so vast across the Pacific, and we can get into some dangerous territories when we say or claim that I am Pacific and I know the Pacific as a whole, when a lot of us, we're constantly still trying to learn about all of the spots and corners of our region. And I think it really comes back to like, what is the Pacific culture, and are we using it too liberally? Like, oh yeah, this is a part of the Pacific culture. I'm Samoan, so I can go do the Fijian meke that I know nothing about. Like, we need to check ourselves, and we get really angry at like Palangis who appropriate our culture without knowing, without knowing anything about it. But I feel like we need to be checking ourselves as well. We see it a lot sometimes. I hate to say it, but Polyfest, the diversity stage. Sometimes we see like some Hawaiian hulas that are to a te waka song in like skin tight outfits that aren't what you're supposed to wear in a traditional hula. So we have to also like not just call out when the West use our culture, we have to call out ourselves and how we use our brothers and sisters' culture, because just because you're from one island doesn't give you like a get out of jail free card to go and like use all the other islands' culture. Yeah.
And even that label, Polynesian, gets used a lot to describe the whole of the Pacific, completely disregarding Melanesia and Micronesia all the time. And the whole, poly movement in itself is leaving out a whole portion of our region. So I think we have to be really conscious of the space, of the place that we stand from, and to acknowledge that, and then to leave space for our other Moana Pacifica brothers and sisters to represent themselves.
How about The Rock and his Marquesian tattoo?
I would say, where did you get that tattoo? Who tattooed you, and what does that have to do with your Samoan culture? I think it's a lot around questioning, because I don't know where he got it, but maybe he has some understanding of it. I've heard Jason Momoa talk about his Hawaiian tattoo on Fresh. I think I saw him talk about it, about the good going in and the evil going out. So he obviously really knows about his markings. I'm yet to see The Rock do it, but if I ever meet The Rock, this is the first question I'm going to ask.
Yeah, you
we have a tattoos right here.
Yeah, you better say it with your chest for The Rock. Tyla. What do you have to say? And it's not just The Rock who does this. There are so many people who partake in tattoos just because they look nice.
I think, we really have to acknowledge that designs are not just designs, patterns are not just patterns. You can't just take things that you think look pretty and put them on your body. Those days are gone. I used to work at a studio on K Road, which is in the city, so we'd get all sorts of people through the door. We get people asking for a Samoan tattoo, but they're showing me a picture of moko. So a lot of it, is about education. What is appropriate for you to wear as someone from outside of the culture, and who is the right person to do that for you. I don't do tamoko because I'm not Māori. For me, it was really about the type of artist that I wanted to be, and to be as respectful as possible, to always stand in a place of respect, to not homogenize us, because we are so diverse.
I think there's a reason why we gatekeep. I think gatekeep is seen as a negative word now. People are like, oh, too many gatekeepers. No, gatekeeping is there for a reason, to keep things safe and sacred. Our elders have kept a lot of our cultural taonga and practices, and that's the reason why they're alive today. If they just left the gates open for anyone to come grab it and take it and use it, it wouldn't have the same meaning and spirituality behind it that we hold to a lot of our cultural elements to this day. So I think also understanding that, why does your grandma gatekeep a lot of that knowledge that she has, or why isn't she wanting to tell all these people on a Facebook Live? There might be more reasons why our elders are scared to just give out a lot of this information, because historically it has always been stolen from us.